Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Philip Bywaters. Today, the 29th of May, we mark the International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers. Australia made its first peacekeeping deployment in 1947, and since then, not a day has passed without an Australian peacekeeper serving in the field. Australian peacekeepers have served in a wide range of roles across the globe and have contributed to more than 60 international peacekeeping operations in more than 30 countries and disputed zones. From the single officer deployed to Guatemala in 1997 to the many thousands of Australians to serve in operations in the Middle East, Cyprus, Somalia, Rwanda, Cambodia, and Timor-Leste, all have played a role in contributing to peace and stability in some of the world's most dangerous and contested war zones. Today, we pay our respects to the men and women commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and to the survivors who returned home. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Rear Admiral Hironobu Kinoshita, Vice Commandant, Japan Joint Staff College. We also warmly welcome Mr. Vijay Nira, Indian Administrative Service, and the accompanying delegation from the National Defence College of India and the United States Congressional Staff Delegation who are in attendance this evening. As always, we warmly welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they have done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war, and on operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal John Ashton. John Ashton was born in 1891 in Hill End, New South Wales, to Thomas and Isabella Ashton, the second of their 5 children. He grew up in Hill End and attended Hill End Public School. By the time he was an adult, the family had moved to a farm near Cranbrook, Western Australia, which they named Ashtondale. John Ashton was working on the farm with his father. When the First World War began, Ashton enlisted for service in the Australian Imperial Force on the 29th of September 1914. He joined the newly raised 16th Battalion. The 16th Battalion was sent to Broadmeadows Camp in Victoria, where the other 3 battalions of the 4th Brigade were brought together for training. With the onset of winter, training conditions were tough, especially for the Western Australians who were used to the warmer weather. Ashton became a signaller and was attached to battalion headquarters. He embarked with his battalion from Melbourne on the 22nd of December aboard Ceramic, bound for Egypt. The 16th Battalion was soon taking part in the Gallipoli campaign. Ashton described the landing in a letter to his brother while recovering in hospital after being wounded. "Of course you have heard all about the landing. I can tell you it was the grand way our lads got to work, never waiting for anything, but rushing the Turkish trenches and machine guns. Our lads went down in dozens, but that did not deter the others. I fortunately dodged everything for 7 days. I had many narrow escapes, but perhaps the closest was caused by 6-inch shells from our ships." After 5 days, the 16th Battalion was relieved from the front line and was sent behind the lines for a rest. but the Turks had made a trench overlooking the Australian transport and lines of communication, so the battalion was ordered to eliminate the Ottoman position. As the men neared the top of the gully, many men were forced to climb on their hands and knees. Ashton described what happened next. The last lift up to the top of the hill was a wall-like bluff, about 9 feet high, and we had to help one another to get up. We were under fire from both sides and the front as well. In about 5 minutes, that gully was in a bad way for killed and wounded Australians. Ashton was part of the advance that moved towards the Ottoman trench. We made a sort of line, but the fire was like hell, and our fellows were just wavering when someone yelled charge, and we went through those Turks like lightning. I had just managed to get within a foot or two of the trenches when I stopped one through the shoulder and dropped into a hollow. The 16th Battalion had entered the battle with 17 officers and 620 men. When they were withdrawn from the front line the following day, only 9 officers and 290 men answered the roll. Ashton was sent to England for some months to recover from his wound, but he thoroughly enjoyed his convalescence. There are about 30 fellows here and almost as many young ladies who have volunteered from the surrounding districts to look after us. We are in what is known as a manor, and the big guns from around bring their motor cars and take us out for spins. It is real bonza. Ashton sailed from England for return to Gallipoli. He arrived in Mudros on the 13th of September and rejoined the 16th Battalion, which, along with the rest of the 4th Brigade, had left Gallipoli for a rest. He returned to duty with the battalion's signals section. In October, Ashton was admitted to the 3rd Australian General Hospital with colitis. He returned to his battalion, and on the 22nd of the month, on the 29th he was back, suffering from hemorrhoids, and soon he was reclassified after developing enteric fever. On the 8th of November, Ashton was transferred to the 3rd Australian General Hospital. His condition was listed as dangerously ill on the 1st of December, and he died 7 days later. He was laid to rest in the Portianos Military Cemetery on Lemnos. The epitaph on his headstone reads, "Not forgotten." He was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal John Ashton, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
I now invite you to please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.